Brittany is absolutely my best friend. She is simply an answer to my prayers. I am deeply thankful for the chance to get to know her these past few years. It has been one amazing journey. All the struggles and heartaches, they've all been worth it, because without them, I might have never gotten to be with this most amazing woman. Well, here's that story, our love story.
In 2010, I was working at Kettering Church, and while I was there, I was talking to Van or James, one of them, and they invited me to come up to Berrien Springs, Michigan to see their film festival that they do every so often. So I figured I'd drive up. It was about 5 hours, I think, something like that. And I'd never been up here, so I figured I'd come up and see them and see these movies that they work on that I'd never seen before. So I drove up one day and got to Fuller's campground where I met Steve. So I had a lot of fun meeting him and a few other people and watching the videos and going for ice cream afterwards and stuff. So I guess that's where I met Steve.
Yeah, I, of course, had heard for years about Brittany Culpepper and Brittany Culpepper this and that, and so I knew she was friends with my friends in Maryland, but I never met her. September of 2010, we put on our 8th semi-annual, occasional, whenever we feel like it, film festival. We had this campground space rented out, and a lot of people were coming.
It's cool.
And I heard Brittany was coming, and I was like, oh my goodness, she's driving all the way from Maryland to see our films? I was like, our films aren't that good. And then I found out she was driving from Ohio, and I was like, well, they're probably good enough to drive from Ohio for. So I was really excited. Of course, it was a very busy time. I was hosting with James. Afterwards, we got to have a few minutes, and I got introduced to Brittany. So I was really excited. And of course, I remember that date, September 19th, 2010, the date I first met Brittany at Fuller's Campground in Buchanan, Michigan. Yeah, James and I, we were tasked with this project by Pastor Sonia at the Bellsville Church, and she needed us to come up with a skit for children's story. James and I came up with stories from Michigan, where James hosted these stories, and then we acted them out on a bed sheet where we were silhouetted, and we needed another person. And James, being a good friend, he always likes to incorporate friends and bring them together. He invited Brittany Culpepper to come and kind of join our crew.
So after I moved here in the summer of 2011 in May, I already knew James Gigante and Van Malcolm and some of the other guys. So James texted me, I think, one day and said, hey, why don't you come help us do a video for Beltsville Church? So I figured, okay, I'll try. I was a little nervous because I hadn't done anything like that in a while.
She was a friend of his from Maryland, and I had heard many stories about her, and this was the first, probably one of the first real hangout times we actually had together. So she came over, and I learned she had an acting background, so I was very excited. We have a professionally trained actress in our video. I grabbed something and brought it over, and we ended up doing like these really cool stories in silhouettes. And we came over to Steve's house, and I think it was only his dad that was here. So I met him, and I'd met Steve before, obviously. And so it was just a lot of fun getting to do something kind of silly, but with a really good point, And James was sitting in this chair. When I moved here up to Michigan in 2011, I realized I probably needed a job. So my friend Nick advised me to talk to Marcia Beal at DLIT. And so I contacted her, and I was fortunate enough to get hired to work for her, which I did for 2 years, I guess, till 2013.
During that time, Steve was the tech for Griggs Hall, which you see behind me. So he would come in whenever we had computer problems, which fortunately for me was not too infrequent. And he would carry around this bunch of keys just right on his belt. And so you could always hear him coming from like way down the hall. So eventually I noticed that I kind of liked it when something went wrong with our computers. Kind of brightened up my day a little bit.
You know, it was just one of those things where, you know, I look forward to going there, talking with her. But as time went on, there was just little things that I would notice about her.
And Marcia had known him for a while, so he would come in and joke around with her, and we would talk about random stuff. And one day, Brianna, I think, said something to me about it too, noticing that I would get a little bit more chipper when, when he would come in. I guess that's really where we really got to know each other more, was at work more than anywhere else.
A couple of things that I guess got me on the path to maybe thinking about Brittany as more than a friend is, you know, she invited me to a couple parties, and I remember one of them was a Pirate Day party, which I thought was really cool. And I was like, hey, it's Pirate Day. I'm like, I've never heard of Pirate Day before, but sure, I'm in. So grabbed my pirate costume because I have one lying around, and that wasn't sarcasm. I actually do have one lying around. I went to the pirate party, and it was around the same time I also got invited to the V for Vendetta party.
We had a V for Vendetta party, and I thought it would be fun if Steve came, and so I invited him, but I think he was invited to a couple things, but he came to ours, and so that was really nice.
I think also at the same time there was like one or two other V for Vendetta parties that were going on that I had an opportunity to go to, and I was like, oh, which one should I go to? Well, you got to go to the one that the pretty girl asks you to. That's the one you go to. So
he had another party, actually, because it was around his birthday, that I wasn't able to go to, and I felt a little bit bad about that. So I got him a cupcake from Martin's one day when Brianna and I were there, and I took it the next day to work and left it on his desk.
I showed up at work one day, and there was a cupcake sitting on my desk, and I was like, man, that's awesome. Somebody got me like a really nice cupcake for my birthday, and it was Brittany, and I was like, that Brittany Culpepper girl, she is something special. If she got me a cupcake, she's okay in my book. So I appreciated that. Not knowing that I would actually be able to redeem myself by going to his other birthday party where James and Jerry kidnapped him and took him to a Mexican restaurant, which is apparently some sort of tradition that they do. But I was able to go to that. And the funny thing is I noticed later after the party that he actually, I think, only talked to me. So I really apologize to Jerry, James, and the Saflarskis for basically being ignored. James decided to kidnap me at gunpoint and blindfold me, and him and Jerry drove me all around town, and we ended up in El Rodeo, and they walked me in there completely blindfold for my birthday, and everybody was just kind of like looking and laughing, and of course James and Jerry were there, Brian and Kaylee Safarsky were there, and Brittany was there, and I actually remember in the back seat when they were having me guess who would be at the party, and I was in the back of my mind, I was like, you know who I'm kind of hoping is there? I'm kind of hoping that Brittany Culpepper girl is there. And she was, and I talked with the others, but I really kind of zeroed in on her and was just like asking her about all kinds of stuff. You know, and working with her, I'd find out interesting things about her, like she was interested in history, specifically World War II history, which I would have never guessed that she was into that. Just asking me all sorts of stuff about like what plays I'd been in high school and everything, and that really made me feel really special and important to him, which was really nice. Because she's pretty sweet. After Steve's birthday, the new James Bond movie Skyfall came out, and he got a group together to go and invited me, which was nice. So I decided that I would tag along. Brittany was one of those that I invited, and I realized Brittany lives all the way in Berrien Springs. She has to drive all the way to Niles, and I live right in between Berrien Springs and Niles. There's no reason for her to drive all the way, so I offered for her to come to my house, and I could take her the the second half of the journey.
He called and was wondering if I'd like to ride with him, which was super exciting for me. And so I said sure, because he was kind of halfway between my house and the theater. So I met him here at his house and I rode with him.
And we rode together, and I thought, you know, she's a really sweet girl, and, you know, just a few days earlier she bought me a cupcake for my birthday, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. I'll pay for her to see the movie. Plus it was the early showing, so it was like $250, but even if it was more, I would have done it.
And we were talking and he asked if I'd ever been to this theater before, and I said no. And so when we got in there, he actually paid for my ticket, which was also very exciting for me because I'm a girl and I read into things, and so I thought that meant it was a date, which apparently I probably was reading too much into things, but it worked out, so it's all good.
We were sitting there with everyone watching the movie, and she sat next to me, and throughout the course of the movie, I just remember thinking, wow, this is a really fun movie, and this is a really fun girl, and she's kind of cute, and I'm pretty stoked on having her sitting next to me. So that's kind of part of the, part of the thinking of maybe I should ask this girl out on some more dates, because that would probably be pretty fun. So Christmas time was coming up, and every year in Berrien Springs, Michigan, they would decorate with lights downtown, and they would give out free food, and people could walk around, and all the shops were open. And so I thought, Brittany loves Christmas and loves pretty lights, so I thought, why don't we go to the open house? So we walked around and did that, and that was a really nice romantic date. And then shortly after that
was Marcia's Christmas party. I was working for her and Janine had a Christmas party at Marcia's, and we brought soup and we decorated gingerbread houses and did a bunch of other festive things. I guess some people were bringing dates, or everybody except for me. I'm not sure how it went. But Marcia asked me if I was going to bring anybody, and I said that I did not realize that I was supposed to. And she said that in true Marcia matchmaker fashion, that she had an idea of who I should bring, and that she would write it on a sticky note and bring it over to me. I had a pretty good idea of whose name I would find on that sticky note. She brought the sticky note over, and sure enough, it was Steve. And so I figured, it sounds like a decent idea, and if your boss tells you to do something, you probably should do it. So I asked him to come.
So I was super excited. I said yes. Again, pretty girl invites you to something, you're going to want to say yes to that. So I did. And then unfortunately I realized, wait a minute, I'm double booked. My good friend Van Malcolm was actually having a birthday party, and there was a number of activities that weekend. And Saturday night, the night of Marcia's party, we were going to see a bluegrass concert. So I talked to Brittany and I said, look, I really want to go and be with you at this event, but I already have this other stuff going on. So we worked it out. So I went and showed up to Marcia's party early, hung out there for an hour, then went to Van's, then went back to Marcia's at the very end. And I got there and I thought there'd still be people hanging out, but it was only like the Beals and Brittany and like a handful of other people maybe, and they were cleaning up. So I stayed and I helped clean up. And then
Very nice of you.
I do what I can. And then after that, we went and had decided to go back and watch a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he invited me to watch my favorite Disney movie, which is Sleeping Beauty. It's the best one. So we did that, and that was fun. Because I love that movie with the fairies and the woodland creatures and
all that. And I decided, you know what, I am really liking this girl, and everything was just going really well at that point. So I said, all right, it's time to make the move. And I grabbed her hand, and she didn't slap me. You didn't slap me.
I know. I was impressed.
So that was really good. And told her I liked her, and she didn't object to that.
No.
So things were going along really well. Christmas was coming up. So we were going to go to our, various homes for Christmas time. So I didn't have any cell phone service where I was, but I would Facebook Brittany every day and to see how she was doing and update her with what I was up to during Christmas time.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun hearing about like what he was doing and staying in touch. So we look forward to the nightly messages of what movies they'd watched or what cookies.
When Brittany and I started dating, I learned something about her at work, and that is she loves to scare me. I got a new job doing video editing, but it was at the same building. I'd be in headphones and I'd be in editing mode, and so a lot more out of tune with the office workplace than when I was, just answering emails and fixing computers. Brittany thought this was great and decided, let's take advantage of Steven's sort of in-depth focus on his job at the time.
Yeah, I don't know why I decided to start doing that. Something about Steve brings out the mischievousness in my personality that I'm not sure that I fully appreciated until the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever. My office is upstairs, so I could come down the back stairs and be behind him when I approached. And sometimes Barb would see, but she wouldn't tell on me, which was really nice. So I would just come up behind him and I would stand behind him and put like my head like right by his head or whatever, right behind him.
I'd be editing like this.
And then he would all of a sudden turn around and I would just be there, and it would freak him out. It was a very satisfying experience for me. It's fun. If anybody hasn't tried teasing Steve, you should try it. It's fun.
We don't need to encourage that. So I got to the point where I was so paranoid, if I saw out of the corner of my eye someone walk by, if I heard a noise, I would stop what I was doing and I would jerk around and there would be nobody there.
See, he should know that wasn't me because I don't make noise.
Oh man, you were like a cat ninja or something
Yeah.
like that. When I moved into my new office, I was gloating because there's a huge window through my cubicle. And so I was like, this is perfect because I'm gonna be able to see her coming from miles away. And I was so proud of myself. And you know what? She found this little blind spot that she can sneak against the wall and then just pop around the corner. And of course my computer is about
huge.
50 inches big, so it helps too. And so all of a sudden it's just out from behind the computer and from behind the glass, there comes Brittany. And I go screaming like a little girl who got tickled at recess on the first day of school.
Particularly on the first day.
Oh man.
That was
Those,
different than...
they're the most shrill. They're the most shrill. So after Brittany and I had been dating for a number of months, I said, you know what? I want to take this relationship to the next level. What next level would that be? So I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I've come to the decision I want to ask Brittany to marry me.
Well, we'd been talking about getting married, so the idea of him proposing wasn't a complete surprise, but...
So I said, okay, well, how would that proposal look? And I thought of all kinds of things and worked and reworked my ideas. And then finally I said, you know what? We've always wanted to do a picnic and we love walks on Jones Road. I want to incorporate these things.
I was sort of oblivious to a lot of this. Like, I didn't even think twice about him buying a bunch of tiki torches for no apparent reason. But I did have a feeling based on how he was acting.
So I picked her up one day in early September and we parked and we went on a little walk here on Jones Road, and I completely sounded like an idiot when I was trying to talk to her. I sounded like I'd never talked to a girl in my entire life. I had zero saliva in my mouth, just dust.
The day before, the picnic that he'd planned, and so the whole time I was in class, I was super impatient for class to be over, so I was probably rude, but I decided to, get a little bit dressed up so I could look cute for the proposal if it happened. And so he picked me up and we came to Jones Road, and of course I was really, for some reason I delayed things. Like, I wanted to see what kind of fruit was growing on the trees nearby. And
as we were walking, I had the excuse that I wanted to take a picture of this lovely sunset. So We went to the spot that I had picked out, and I knelt down, but when I unzipped my bag, I had a ring in there.
And then instead of his camera, he pulled out the ring, which was beautiful, and proposed to me. And he's used to me messing with him and playing with him, so I didn't want to just be boring and say yes. So I just decided to do the okay thing for some reason.
And Brittany, being the playful prankster she is, decided to say, okay.
Apparently that scared him a little bit more than I thought it would, because I thought he was pretty secure in what my answer was going to be.
I was pretty sure, I was pretty confident that she was going to say yes. But there was that like half second of hesitation of like, what if? But she said yes, and I was super happy, and it was just kind of a surreal moment for the two of us.
He, I guess, scared him a little bit, so I felt a little bit bad, but I was super excited and called my parents, and I guess they were in on it already. He called them to ask, so good thing they said yes. So then we went back and had a really nice picnic with all of my favorite things, and so it was really sweet.
I mean, really, who better to be my wife than Brittany Culpepper? Boom!
That is our love story, and it's just the beginning of our new journey together. We thank each and every one of you who have been with us along the way. Your friendship, love, wisdom, and support have been truly invaluable, and we thank God for bringing us together into this happy union. Now, we are looking forward to the rest of the adventure that God has planned for us.
And that is the